why would anybody of their own free will sit in a room the entire day and listen to 24 speakers? And why is any one of you willing to waste an evening listening to me? I have no idea. Okay, we'll talk about that. Okay, the format that I have been mandated with is I'll speak for about probably 2 to 3 minutes. Okay.
Huh?
And yeah, that's the mandate that's been.
It says 30.
No, the session is 30 minutes.
Okay.
Then I'll ask you to speak
Oh,
and bring
no.
up issues that you think have been the highlights of today. And anybody who wants to ask me a question is free to ask.
Okay.
So that's the deal for 30 minutes. And
Okay.
if you want to finish in 18, I'm sure nobody will mind.
Okay.
Okay, there's 2 things that I wanted to talk to you about. One goes back to a conversation that I was having with Sabine in Murray. And there was a discussion of how do you best approach an entrepreneurial career. The conventional wisdom, the one that I get from a lot of people that I interview, youngsters who just come out of school, is what do you want to do in life? What do you want to do in 10 years? And increasingly, the answer is what do I want to do in 10 years is I want to run a business of my own. Okay, you want to run a business of your own, why are you sitting here and interviewing with me? And the answer invariably is, oh, I'm going to work for 3 to 4 years, and I'm going to learn the business, and then I'm going to start my own business. 99.99% of the time, without risk of being wrong, I can look the person in the eye and say, you're never going to run a business of your own. Okay? First of all, understand the logic of what you're talking about. You want to run a business, and to learn how to run a business, you're joining a corporate which has a few thousand people working on it. So the sum total of the business that needs to be done is now carved out between these few thousand people. And amongst those few thousand people, remember you're going to be amongst the junior most as you start your career. So you will be given this tiny little window of that entire business that needs to be handled, sitting in a tiny little cubicle. Okay? You are not being prepared to become an entrepreneur. You're being trained to become a fantastic manager. If you join the right corporate, you'll learn great skills and you'll learn to be a great manager. But you're not being trained to be a businessman, you're not being trained to be an entrepreneur. There are some who are lucky, some very, very, very small fraction, that's why I said 99.99%, who might be able to become entrepreneurs within these large corporations. An entrepreneur, as somebody calls them. Okay? There are others who will, after a couple of years, go out and start a career of their own. But by and large, the people that I have met in my life, if you look at global examples, those who become successful entrepreneurs did not start their work in corporates and then go on to become entrepreneurs. So just keep that in mind. I leave the choice to you what you want to do, but keep that in mind when you're planning out your careers. The second thing that I wanted to share with you is I wanted to share the one highlight of my career of entrepreneurship, and I was one of those very, 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 very small fraction of people who were lucky enough to be allowed to practice entrepreneurship while being a large corporate. And that learning came from the biggest failure that I've had so far. And I just thought that I'd share it with you because the root cause of that failure is of such a generic nature that it can affect any of us. And that came from the first diversification project that we worked on. I was an integral part of the team, started off brilliantly, great success, and then we went on to the second diversification project. And this time around, I was asked to lead the development of that business. And we developed that business, we launched it, and within weeks of launching it, we found out that it was a spectacular failure. We had gone absolutely and completely wrong in a fundamental assumption about the business. And that's the other learning by the way. There were 11 critical assumptions. 10, we exceeded the targets we had set for ourselves. In only one, we were wrong, but we were wrong by such a margin that the business completely failed in the short run. Okay? success of the business is multiplicative, it's not additive. If there is a zero in any part of the multiplication chain, you're going to end up with zero at the end. In this particular case, I wish there was a zero at the end, but there wasn't. There was a big fat minus sign at the end of it. and when we sat back and we analyzed as to what had led us to that failure, the basic root cause is that when you're trying to develop something new, you need to bring an enormous amount of passion into that work. If you don't bring that passion, if you try and do it only by the mind, you will never create a great success from the ground up. Okay. There has to be a very strong combination of passion and intellect both. I quoted this before, मेरा लम्बाई बात का बहुत favorite शेर है. लाज़िम है दिल के पास रहे पासबान याकुल. It's important that the mind should be there to guide the heart. लाज़िम है दिल के पास रहे पासबान याकुल, लेकिन कभी-कभी इसे तन्हा भी छोड़ दे. In great moments of entrepreneurship, you need a moment where passion takes over. But in developing that energy and that passion, you look and you have to think optimistically. Okay? And what happens is that when you see good news, when you see a result which you like, you don't question, you don't probe, you accept it because it fits into the picture that you're trying to build. So when you're developing something from scratch, when you're going into an unknown zone, when you're dealing with something that you've not dealt with before, when it is not last year's numbers multiplied by 10% growth this year, you must always challenge when you see a result which you like. You must probe it and you must try and prove it to be wrong. That was the critical lesson that we learned, and anything that you do in life which is new, could be entrepreneurship, could be something else, that's where it comes from. And this is the last thing again, as you can see, and I'll speak a little bit very briefly on that also. A lot of people go to the bookshops and buy how to do books, how to be a good leader, and how to be successful in business, and how to be a good manager, and so on and so forth. If you want to be an entrepreneur, you are never going to find the answers in Jack Welch's book, okay? Or reading Philip Kotler. Those are all fantastic. I'm not saying there's not value in that. But that's not what is going to turn you into an entrepreneur. That's not what is going to make you do things which have never been done before. Okay? You want that inspiration? It's going to come from literature. It's going to come from history. It's going to come from war. It's going to come from sport. It's going to come from poetry. It's different for different people. Maybe it will come from religion for you. Okay? And what you relate to is different from each individual. So there is no one thing that I can say, do this, and that's what will inspire you. But the inspiration will come from these sources. It will not come from management books. It will not come from the business school. For me, inspiration comes primarily from two different sources. One, sports. It's a magnificent ground for learning how to run businesses and how to achieve something phenomenal. Okay? And the other one is poetry. So I'll end my monologue on this other, one of my favorite verses, which describes the way I approach life, in which kind of is almost sine qua non for developing a great new business. And this says, दुनिया में ठिकाने दो ही तुम्हें आजाद मनुष्य इंसानों के. दुनिया में ठिकाने दो ही तुम्हें आजाद मनुष्य इंसानों के. There are only two destinations for freedom-loving people. And this is before George Bush went and made freedom-loving a dirty word. Okay, so assume there was no George Bush. Okay, this is pre-George Bush. दुनिया में ठिकाने दो ही तुम्हें आजाद मनुष्य इंसानों में. एक तख्त जगह आजादी की. Either the crown या तख्त मुकाम आजादी का, or the gallows. And that's the spirit with which you have to approach life if you want to be a successful entrepreneur. No half measures, nothing short of spectacular success is what you're aiming for. You keep your feet off the ground, but you keep reaching for the stars. And that's the balance that you have to be. But if you like a destination other than either the throne or the gallows, then entrepreneurship is not for you. Okay. With that, I stop my monologue. Anybody who wants to volunteer about the great learnings from today or any